Hi everyone, welcome to this hangout about how to use social media to monetize fan engagement. Today with two special, very special guests again with the digital sport sharks, Scott Sandalow and Molly Brady. Do you like the name Sharks? It is a pretty good name, right? So first of all, before we start, I would like you to introduce yourselves about what you do at the moment and what's your professional journey until now.
Molly, go ahead.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. My name is Molly Brady. I work in digital media for professional sports. I've worked at the Seattle Sounders, Seattle Seahawks, New York Red Bulls, and at the moment I'm doing freelance and consulting work for Sharky Waters LLC, a new group I've started.
Right, perfect. What about you, Scott?
My name is Scott Sandalow. I currently work for FC Bayern Munich in our New York office. I've worked for a bunch of different clubs in sports, most recently before New York Red Bulls with Molly, Chicago Fire, Chicago Bears, Chicago White Sox, and I do social media and kind of digital storytelling for different brands and sports teams.
All right, there is perfect. I'm Marcos Castro. I'm the football director at Prozis, the largest online retailer in sports nutrition and also a digital sports consultant. Today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic, that is using social media to monetize fan engagement, because a lot about fan engagement, how cool it is engagement with our audience. But really, the key part of it is to how we can monetize that engagement with our audience. So, to the people that are watching us, thank you for watching. If you have questions to Molly and Scott, please post your questions in the YouTube comments section. So, maybe the first question it is how we can really use social media to monetize fan engagement. Who do you want to start? Who does want to start?
I'll start with this one. As the first shark to answer this question, it's getting easier with all the interesting and kind of innovative tools that not only social media brands are natively creating, but all these third-party tools that we're able to use to help monetize through social networks directly. I know the Red Bulls are one of the first teams to start actually selling tickets through Facebook, and there's a ton of actual transaction that can be done natively through Twitter and even Instagram now. So I think it's just getting easier with each kind of innovation that's being introduced by these networks themselves, and I think you're going to see it a lot more, natively living on these social networks. So it's just there's more opportunities kind of every day as new companies try to think of interesting ways to keep that transaction in the network.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I think it's important to not be scared by it. That I know in the past people have really kind of looked at the sanctity of sports, that it's what happens on the field, the players, and everything that's monetized, whether it's corporate sponsorships, all of that has been looked down on a little bit. But I think social media is really leveling the playing field. That every brand can have such a cool voice, such a cool perspective in what they're doing on social media, that now it's who of sports teams to want to engage with that in a way that's working for the brands they're working with, the fans they're working with, and engage. So, I mean, one of the biggest things everyone remembers from the Super Bowl, and there was the blackout, was the Oreo dunk in the dark tweet. And I think that, that really could be sort of a pivotal moment in sports monetizing social media, that you can really see how much fun you can have with brands, that you can connect the right brands with your fans, with the team, do everything in a really cohesive way. And I think social media has really helped kind of bridge the gap between sort of the evils of monetizing sports into this really cool new space where everyone's using social media together, and we're all getting something out of it, and it's just working for everyone. So it's an exciting time to be in this space.
And I've seen it in the limited time that I've been with Bayern, and I know we saw it in some times that we've been with the Red Bulls. If the copy's right and the creative looks good, and people aren't upset that they're being given ticketing messaging or merchandise messaging, there's a lot of times where people want to make that transaction, and I think as long as it kind of works as effective content on its own. It'll work as transactional content. So people are looking for it anyway, and you see it performing better on its own. So people aren't actually that mad as long as it doesn't look crappy.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, one of the first topics that we have to discuss is really how to use social media to build a global brand. So, Scott, you are working with FC Bayern at the moment in their United States area. How we can actually build social media, how we can use social media to build a global brand. So it is different when you work with an European club, for instance with Bayern, or Molly, is it different when you work with Seattle Seahawks or New York Red Bulls and so on? What is the difference? How can we really use social media to build a global brand if you talk about an American brand or if you are talking about an European brand?
So I think I'll start with Bayern in the U.S. and I think the advantage of working with a club like Bayern is already such an established interest, even in the United States, because they've been here multiple times and they have this huge fan base with unbelievably successful players and a successful past. I think the job for Bayern in the United States is complicated and it's fairly simple. I think it's just to mobilize and really bring together the fan base that they know they've had here and kind of bring together this, U.S. and American cohesiveness that maybe they hadn't had before because, they were mainly obviously based in Europe. But I think social media has helped so much to mobilize and bring together this group of fans. It's really, it's made our job a lot easier because all we're doing is really connecting the dots between the club over there and the fans over here. So I think it's been fun to see it grow, but it's also really been fun to add our kind of own twist on the content that we have. So not only do we have a good relationship with the people creating content in Munich, we also are able to put our own spin on everything and give it kind of an American lens. And I know that people appreciate that. So it's been a challenge, but I think it's one that anyone who works in sports would be happy to be presented with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. I think I've noticed in working with sports brands and building a social following is there's really two sides to how global social media is. That like when you're working with the Seattle Seahawks and the NFL, obviously the NFL is following it. But there's so much that's based in your community that in your NFL state footprint, that what's local, your TV rights, what you see in stores, what you can watch. But when a team, comes up and, has a rise like the Seahawks where, they're suddenly very, very interesting and, they're in the Super Bowl and they're winning and, they have these big personalities like Russell Wilson coming up, that social media is that gap that even if the Seahawks aren't, your local team, they aren't on your local broadcast, they're maybe not in your, local, sports update on the local news, that social media is really that bridge that you can start following and really care about teams that aren't near you. So as Scott said, whether you're based in Munich and now because of social media you have an office in the US because it's so global. So it's a really, really cool challenge. In soccer, I think is a little more global and is already there. So with the Red Bulls, the Red Bull network, it already had a much larger global audience. But with the Seahawks, I really noticed with the NFL, it was really cool that the NFL at times is very marketed, to sort of the local space, and social media is that big gap that no matter where you are, you can follow the Seahawks, you can be a part of what they're doing. And that's just a really, really, as Scott said, a really cool challenge to be in, is you're sort of, working for the people who are near you and bringing everyone else into the fold.
Yeah, for sure. I remember one time in an hangout I spoke with Alex Gunovic when he was at Liverpool, and one of the challenges that they have at Liverpool, it was that they have local teams around the world that they use to tailor specific content to their particular audience. So does this make sense for you guys?
Yeah, I think there's times, especially during the tour that Bayern just had, our amazingly successful and fun tour of the United States, that we were able to kind of tailor the story to an American audience. For example, there were times when we did Facebook live broadcast of training, and we put those on the U.S. page as opposed to the maybe Global English page or the German page. So I think having people in market, it helped us create kind of new and different storylines, but also ones that, you know, our fans globally could appreciate.
Absolutely, and I found that I think it's important when you're looking at sort of the local versus global marketing that you're not sending messages to people that they can't act on. So when you're sending your global message, maybe it's not going to be a ticket message. You know, someone who's, you know, thousands of miles away can't take advantage of, you know, a ticket special for a game that's 24 hours away. If, you know, it's a contest that, you know, only, you know, like in Seattle, if only, you know, Washington State residents can enter this contest, don't blast that message out to people in Oregon, Montana, Idaho. I think you really have to look at your content and see who can appreciate what. If it's a big story, a big piece, you know, something that everyone can just enjoy on social, send it everywhere. If it's, you know, working on something like with the Red Bulls, you know, obviously we had a lot of French players. So Scott and I spent some time, you know, working on pieces that were, you know, written in French or specifically geared about our French players so we could, you know, market to that audience, or for our Spanish players that we were doing stuff, you know, where they were speaking Spanish and then we were sending it to a Spanish-speaking audience. So I think you really want to look at what you have and make sure you're getting it to the right audience so you don't frustrate people that, you know, it's a cool contest, a ticket offer. If, you know, you don't ship to the UK, don't send people, you know, merchandising messaging there. That you want to look at what you're working with and make sure you're getting the right audience and not just blasting everything across all your channels everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. We have a question here from Patrick Yanjo, and yes, what's the next big focus on FC Bayern on social?
I mean, I think it's fairly to a lot of other teams. I mean, it's you see the best reaction and the best results with Facebook Live right now, or anything live. I think mainly on Facebook is hopefully a lot of kind of more heavy live streaming of events or things that maybe they hadn't had access to. For example, every year there's a team unveiling that they've historically done at the stadium, and kind of without the global audience on Facebook, and it reached millions of people. It was English broadcast on all the Facebook pages. So I think any ways that they can produce content that goes to a live, large audience, that'll probably be one of the next big frontiers that they'll be looking to push.
Yeah, for sure. And you talked about live video, and video now is something that the social media platforms are really pushing hard about it, with live streaming mainly. So for you guys, based on your experience, what is the best type of content to really drive engagement and ultimately drive traffic for a sponsor brand, a website of a brand that is sponsoring a club? What is the type of content that you think it resonates the most based on your experience, and what platforms are the best ones for us to use?
For sure. I think the big thing is you really have to have an honest look at what everyone's trying to accomplish. Does your sponsor want to drive traffic? Are they looking for leads? Is it brand awareness? You know, you have to look at what your sponsor wants and, you know, what works well for the team. Because you can come up with a great idea that, you know, if it's, you know, like if in Seattle, you know, let's see, if it's video content really well for your club and you come up with a great idea that's long form.
If you want to show the images of Seattle, just say me. Don't know when you want to show them. When you want to show them, just tell me, all right?
Oh, perfect. 1 second, almost there. So I think you really have to look at, you know, what works for your club, what you guys are comfortable doing with, and then what goals your sponsor has. So if we want to put up the Bing Hawk images, this would be a perfect time for it.
All right. So
when I was in
image number 1, right?
Image number 1, please. So when I was in Seattle, one of our really great sponsors was Bing, and Bing sponsored training and had a patch on the practice jersey and was really in that space. And it was really important for them that, you know, they were getting their brand out, that they wanted Bing connected with the Hawks because they were local. So they came up with the hashtag Bing Hawks. And when we first used this hashtag, they really wanted to just kind of tag on everything. that, you know, we didn't really know exactly, you know, what Bing Hawks was, what it meant. But when you're so inside these campaigns, that for Bing, it made so much sense to them that, you know, it was connecting Bing to the Seahawks. Bing Hawks was this perfect hashtag. It was, you know, all Seattle. It was local. And when you start working on the campaign, you get really tunnel vision that you don't see the outside picture. It made perfect sense to us, and we all just started putting Bing Hawks on, you know, tweets and everything. And then, you know, fans and everyone were kind of tweeting back, and they were like, what's a Bing Hawk? Like, you know, I don't understand. And so this first example is just, you know, a video tweet where it's just Bing Hawks. And so then we really had to pull back and sort of refocus the campaign and find a way to connect what Bing is with how that helps, you know, how the Seahawks can use that, and then that's the context to it. So if you go to the second image, what we decided was that Bing is information. It's a search engine, and so how can we use information? So we wanted Bing Hawks to mean more information about the Hawks. So what we started doing is, I believe the second image is going to be an infographic, that Bing started creating these Bing Hawk infographics, and so they were delivering to the fans what they're best at on the Seahawks channels representing the Seahawks. So after each game, they would put together this social media infographic that showed, you know, fan engagement, that, you know, the Seahawks fans are so proud, and, you know, one of their records is being the loudest stadium. So they're the loudest fans in person, and honestly, they're the loudest fans on social in the NFL. So every week after a game, we put out the Bing Hawk statistics that show, you know, the fan engagement and, you know, sort of the fanscape from the game. And so that really started connecting that Bing Hawks is information, that, you know, we're going to provide more information with Bing to you. And so once it went from just adding this hashtag to just everything, to adding this hashtag to things that were so connected with, you know, what Bing is, it just started really taking off and worked for everyone. So they did these infographics, and if you go to the next slide, let's see.
So give me a moment.
No problem.
So next one. All right, let's go for it. Let's go.
And then another thing we started doing Bing Hawks, Bing sponsored TBT. So another thing that, you know, we often talk about is, you know, sell what's already working for you. TBT is, you know, a huge social media moment. Everyone uses it. Everyone loves it. Everyone engages with it. So that's something that you can sell to a sponsor when it's the right fit. So since Bing is information, they created these really specific curated Bing searches to go with our TBT. So this one on Turnover Thursday in Hawkville, Bing Hawks presented TBT, and it was, you know, on this day with Beastquake. So if you went to that link, it went to a Bing search that was very, you know, curated and had all the information on the first Beast mode, what it was, what it meant, who was a part of it. And so it was just this amazing connection between what Bing can do, what the Seahawks are doing, and it was just an absolute perfect match that then people understood, oh, Bing Hawks is more information about the Hawks. This is local, that it wasn't just throwing this hashtag on because, you know, they were, you know, giving money and they were there, that it was creating these really, really great stories and these pieces and connecting with, you know, what the Seahawks do, with what Bing does to just get the most out of it. And so then the last two slides are Bing Hawks training camp. And so then when it came back around to training camp, that it wasn't just throwing Bing Hawks on everything, that it was showing that, you know, Bing Hawks is training camp because Bing is presenting training camp. And so then there was more context to how we were using the Bing Hawks hashtag. So for me, this was a huge, you know, turning point in my social media career, and, you know, how I was marketing and monetizing fan engagement, that it was really the understanding of, you know, that it wasn't just throwing a hashtag on something or, you know, connecting a brand with something at face value, that if you really want to engage the right way, if you really want to benefit everyone for these successful campaigns that can come back year over year, you have to find the right fit between their personality, what they want to establish, what the team's already doing that works well, what the fans are engaged with, what they want to be a part of, and then find a way to marry those together, and then it becomes this great campaign like Bing Hawks. So that would be my example.
Just last slide. Do you want to talk about it, or is it okay?
Oh, it's okay. Those are kind of hard to get to, so we're good.
All right. So So this was an excellent case study about being in the Seattle Seahawks. Scott, do you have a case study that you want to share with us? Maybe some benchmark that you can share with us about the Audi Tour that Bayern Munich have done in the United States?
So one thing that I can actually share really quick, and I can send out information about it a little more. When we went on the tour, I think this was the best thing that was a fully kind of cohesive plan from everyone on down to the retail to the social media. When we went on tour, we had a bunch of branded gear, so everything was the Bayern Munich logo dates kind of background, and the whole team got backpacks and polos and sweaters and everything. But the most successful thing was this hat, and the reason it was so successful is because everyone on the tour, every player was wearing it on the airplane to get to America, or they were wearing it when they were in Chicago or Charlotte, or when they were in New York again. So I think the most successful came from actual native images of these players wearing these hats in action. So one of our most popular players on social media, David Alaba, was always wearing this hat. You could always see him with this red, like bright red Bayern Munich hat with the United States logo.
Can you show us the hat, just for the guys that are watching the Hangout to see?
Dang, I actually don't. I should have brought the hat. I don't have it. I can send additional photos. But it's his perfect red hat, and he was wearing it in pretty much everything that we captured him in that's not on the field. So every time that people will tweet and ask us what is this hat that was wearing, we'd have a short link to the store that was ready with all the buttons. It worked because it was organic in a sense of the players just happened to be wearing it, even though this was a totally cohesive effort of getting the players to be bought in to wear all this kind of, U.S.-centric tour stuff. So that ended up being one of the most popular items that people were looking for from social on the tour, and we were ready right there in the moment to provide them with the purchase link. So that was, by far the most, the most successful and visibly best example that we can get from the tour.
Yeah, and that's very interesting. Just let me remind the people that is watching us, if you want to ask questions to Scott and Molly, please post your questions in the comments section of our YouTube Hangout. So guys, another question for you. How do you balance commercial and club content? What is the ratio between them? It's like 20% commercial, 80% news about the club, about the training sessions. What are the numbers behind it? How do you manage this kind of situation? So commercial or club content?
Yeah. So I mean, for us, and I think. Oh, go ahead, Molly.
I always found creating a really clear inventory for your sponsorship really helps. That when you look at your editorial calendar and you're deciding how many sponsored posts you can do in a day, is it one on Instagram per day, maybe 5 tweets, so you can find the right balance, like knowing how much club content you're putting out. Look at, as you say, sort of maybe that 80-20, 70-30 balance. And I think, being very upfront with what your inventory is and, sticking to it, that, if you're giving sponsorship 3 tweets a day, 1 Facebook post and 1 Instagram post and telling them, go sell, go do this, then obviously you have to turn around and, provide that for them. But I think when you look at your editorial calendar, look at, whatever ratio you're comfortable with, somewhere between 60-40 to 80-20, decide, what club content you can use to balance that, and then create a very clear inventory for them, and then deliver on it. So everyone's, very upfront and very responsible, and knowing, what they can sell, what you can deliver, and what's available. And then I think it also helps, create a little bit of scarcity among sales and your partners, that there's only so much space on the team social networks in a day, and everyone has to pull their end of it. But I think being really, really clear with your inventory, because I know when people start selling social media, it's also sort of theoretical and out there, that they feel you can post everything an unlimited number on Facebook, an unlimited number of tweets. And I think when you're working with your sales department, that you really have to be very clear with, what your inventory is. That, unlike maybe signs in a stadium where there are just a finite number of signs, you have to have enough control over your social media that you can create finite limits for your inventory.
Yeah. Scott, just let me...
Also,
jump in the conversation and also add another question. So balance between commercial and club content, and how many posts per day? How many tweets per day? Is there a number, or there's just a myth?
No, I mean, so to answer the first question, I think we've been lucky with Bayern to have some amazing partners who create some really cool content. I mean, the first example is Lufthansa. When they brought Bayern over, they had a fully branded plane. So in terms of creating, it wasn't just checking off a box with a sponsor like Lufthansa or a sponsor like DHL, who had this amazing fan-driven content that was hosted by Jimmy Conrad throughout the whole time. So I think if you get fortunate with sponsors who understand their role and understand the responsibility they have to the club, I think it makes for some amazing content. So we were fortunate enough to, sponsored content for us on the tour, it wasn't even like a chore. It was something that I was looking forward to doing because it was actually so cool. And I'm sorry, what was that?
And the other question, it was how many posts per day on Facebook or tweets or Instagram posts whatsoever.
Okay, so I guess I'll take this with Twitter because they're very kind of a clear strategy with Bayern. The thing about being in the United States and not we're East Coast, obviously a lot of their audience kind of ends at a certain time each day. For a team like Bayern in the United States, their audience kind of is from waking up to going to sleep in all time zones. So we have to be very cognizant of, not only an East Coast market, but also, a Midwest and a Mountain Time and a West Coast market. So we're creating content and scheduling all throughout the day. So, from the moment you wake up on the East Coast to the moment you go to sleep on the West Coast, there's going to be content that you're consuming. So it's the schedule is clear and well defined, but also very well thought out to make sure we're not neglecting any groups of folks based on what time zone they're in. So I think we have to be more cognizant than maybe other clubs who are catering to a specific region because we're reaching so many different people in this country.
Yeah. Molly, what are your thoughts on the number of posts and tweets per day?
I think it depends where you are in the season. That if you're, like going to, a championship game, the Super Bowl, you're in MLS Cup, there's obviously going to be more content, more ramped up, and more sponsored content. So it's going to go up a little bit. But on the day-to-day, I think, when you're working with your sales department, I think it does help to have a finite number because you don't want it to be that, they've sold, say, 5 tweets for a contest and, haven't really gotten around to scheduling them. You guys, whatever happened, it hasn't worked out, that all of a sudden one day they want like 5 tweets in a row. And, you really can't do that. So at the clubs I've worked with, it's really been usually 1 Facebook post a day, 1 Instagram post, and somewhere between 5 and 7 tweets that I think, for the social media I've done and, my editorial calendar, that's actually worked out really well for me. And then, when it ramps up, when it's, ticket renewal season or, there's just more going on, obviously it's, whatever's going on is a bigger story. So your club content's going to go up at the same time as your sponsored content. And so as long as you keep that ratio fairly steady, and as Scott says, you're not just pushing off everything to 3 o'clock on a Friday to just check it off and get it out of the way. And then the biggest thing with having an editorial calendar when you work in social media is that you're planning for everything you can. That these like sponsored posts that about are coming up. You can have those scheduled. Your editorial content that's scheduled. So then that allows you to be more spontaneous with social media. That when something comes up, you can then start covering it. You can add a story. You can add sort of that layer that really takes your social media to the next level. So I think as, by the books and precise as you are with everything that's, planned, and obviously, sponsored content has so many layers to go through that it's, approvals, your sales team, their sales team, everything. As long as you're as buttoned up as possible with everything you can plan for, and you can add those extra social media things that really take it to the next level. So Scott was saying with the hats, that when you really see that that's taking off, then just your on-the-fly social media can be on the plane taking those photos, on the runway, out with fans. You're really getting sort of that extra level that, takes social media to the next plane for everyone.
Yeah, guys, very cool
Yeah,
insights.
and let me.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Go
so
for
I
it.
just want to break in because I think Molly hit like the most important point that we'll probably talk about. Like, if you're prepared for the things that you need to be prepared for, the things that you're not will be manageable. And I think, that's, at the end of the day, we can schedule 50 tweets, but this tweet that's going to have the best, reaction is me responding to a fan with a GIF. If I didn't see that because I'm doing other things, then that's a massive missed opportunity. So, I mean, yeah, it's incredibly important to prepare for the things that you can prepare for, because the engagement's by far the most important. And if you're not ready for that or you're scrambling, then you're missing opportunities every single second.
Yeah, for sure, guys. So, another question. What are the 3 things a sponsor must have in mind to get the most ROI of his investment when using social media to activate its brand? So, 3 things.
I'll go one. I think they should have an understanding of the brand's or the team's tone. I think the posts that stick out like sore thumbs on social are the ones from sponsors or companies who seem to go way off book with the way that they're portraying their message. So I think if you're doing something that's way off tone, or as Molly and I kind of always said, like if you're not reading the room with what you're saying and what you're talking about, that makes for something incredibly unsuccessful. Another one I think is non cohesive creative. I think that also it makes something stick out as well if something just clearly looks like a billboard for something else because it's not a part of something else. So those are my 2, and I'm sure Molly could have one more.
Yeah, I'd say my 3 are, you have to have a clear expectation of what your goal is. Is it brand awareness? Is it driving people to your site? Is it showing people a new product? Is it, showing players using your product? Like whatever it is, you have to come to the table with what you want to accomplish. Because if you just come to, a team social media and I have a great idea for, what would be brand awareness, but you're trying to drive people to your website, even if it's a successful campaign, it's not going to meet your needs. So one, everyone has to be upfront with, what the sponsor's goal is. And then keeping that in mind, you have to be willing to compromise. When you're putting something on a team's social channel, it has to be in their voice. That as Scott said, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb if it's, not in the voice. So you have to be willing to compromise a little bit and let the team social media maybe rewrite your copy, tweak your idea a little bit. So I think you have to be really open on the compromise that, when you're putting it on a team's channel, it has to come through their voice, or it's not going to be authentic, it's not going to fit, it's not going to be successful. And then the third is, gosh, 2's easy, Scott, 3's hard.
I know, 2's good.
And then the third is you have to be willing to give things a little bit of time to grow. That, when you're starting with something new, when you're throwing sponsored content in there, maybe your first, sponsored TBT, no one's going to click the link. Maybe it's not going to work right away. I think with sponsored content, really plan to build a series or, a series of whatever it is that you can give fans time to kind of, get used to it, get excited about it. Maybe it's appointment viewing. Maybe it's, a new campaign. I think you can't pull the plug on something after 1 or 2 outings. Maybe the first tweet, didn't get the traction you want, but if it's a really good idea, if it's a really good content series, have some faith in it and give it a little bit of time to grow. I think the thing I've noticed is, a lot of sponsors and sponsored content, if the first one isn't just gangbusters, everyone's ready to just pull the plug, scrap it, try something new. And you really, really, really got to have a little patience to let these things grow with your audience and engage. That, don't be scared of that.
Yeah, for sure. Very, very cool insights, guys. So we are going to our last topic. That is how social media use to gather data and build fan profiles. Just a quick reminder, guys, that you are watching the Hangout. If you have any question to Scott and Molly, please post your question on the YouTube comments section of this Hangout. So in terms of data, is very important today. Talk about how we manage the data about our fans, so how we can build personas around them and how we can target them. So, question, how do you collect the data of your fans using social media? Do you build fan profiles or personas? How do you work in this specific context?
I think,
I've used,
go ahead.
Oh, okay. For me personally, I've used Sprinkler as a platform to do this, and it really, it's, not Big Brother or anything. It really only takes what people are putting out there on the web themselves, on their social media profiles, and gathering that. And so you can really look through and see, everyone's sort of individual social media profiles, and then you can start to build these bigger database groups of, people who look like. So then you can, find content that you can, gear towards specific groups of people that, you're not going to send kids club content to people who don't have kids. You're not going to send, beer garden content to people who are only going to your kids club and kids camps. That I think it really is just finding a platform like Sprinkler, whatever it is, that can just gather all the native information and really help you kind of segment out your profile so you know who your big audience is. And I think that's one thing that, Scott and I have learned the most in MLS is how young the MLS audience is. That, 5 years ago, they all had, iPhones and smartphones at a bigger, and we're looking at all their content on smartphones before the NFL or MLB audiences were at the same rate. So I think you can really see, from league to league or team to team, sort of what the general sense of your fan base is. But then you can also use it as a tool to really specifically market to inner fan bases. But just so no one's scared or anything, it's not Big Brother stuff. We're not finding all this terrible secret information on you. It is actually just gathering everything you're already putting out there yourselves. Just so everyone knows.
And I think going back to that too, going back to the original point that we've had about being prepared for everything so you can do the things that you're not as much prepared for. The analytics and the data give us a profile and kind of an idea of who these people are and what they're doing. But more importantly, I mean, it allows me to have faith in my on-the-fly and kind of reactionary content because I already know the audience so well. And I think like any good social media community manager should have such a good grip on the people that they're talking to. They should never have to worry if something's going to resonate because they eat, sleep, and breathe all the conversations these people are having, and they should know like instinctively and natively. I can post something and guarantee you it'll be successful, or I can post something and tell you that it'll maybe get a lukewarm reception or not the number that some people are looking at. So I think the data kind of empowers you with the confidence to create things on the fly, and that's probably the best thing about it. If I understand the people that I'm talking to and engaging with on a day-to-day basis, I know that the things that I can create in the right time in real time are going to be successful.
Yeah, for sure.
And also going back to both. Oh, I'm going back to what I've been talking to you today.
Sorry, I'm talking two sharks. You are just firing up, so just go for it.
It's an incredible. So we've been talking about it earlier. It's an incredible sales tool that when you're looking for these brands, when you're looking to connect the right people, if you can help inform your sales team with this is who our audience is, they're going to target the right brands. That you're not going to be bringing someone into the fold and trying to create this great content and connect the wrong brand to your team. That it really helps narrow the focus so like your sales team can do better, your digital media team can do better. Like it's an incredible tool to make sure everyone's on the same page, and that as Scott says, you're going to know when things are going to do well. That like a failure is not going to surprise you, and success isn't really going to surprise you either.
Yeah, for sure. Guys, a question: how do you build your sales funnel using social media? What are the key components that you have in mind when you do that? When you use these tools that really can allow us to build our fan personas? How do you build? What are the key points that you use to build your sales funnel?
I think I don't know if there's a necessary blueprint to doing it. I think you just create good content. And content that is going to work out well, and the rest will kind of follow.
For me, I found I'm working with a Solid Shot right now, which is a sports tech company that has a basketball smart sleeve, and this is a space we're really in. So what I've been doing and what we found is working is you have to work on building your social media following, and you have to pair that with paid promotion. So when you're getting people to follow your accounts, to see this great content you're putting out, to learn more about you. So when you're putting out content, it's reaching a bigger and bigger organic audience. But you also can't be afraid of using paid social media at this point to get people, get in front of people so they can follow you, so they can learn more. So if you have a post that really resonated with, the audience you have, promote it immediately. Get it in front of more people, that when you see these successes, start finding that audience. And then within your social profiles, you can build these audiences. So when you're promoting your posts on Facebook, you can get up to like, 6% of the US audience that looks like this, that follows this brand. That I think you can really, really use your ad manager, your Twitter ads, Instagram ads. You can really use all of these tools to, help build, just get in front of the right audience. That when you're working with the sales funnel, I don't think you should be scared of paid social media. And that all of it is, working toward building a bigger audience for your brand and the right audience for your brand. So then the stuff you're putting on natively, starts just getting a big organic field. But definitely don't be scared of paid social promotion as part of the sales funnel.
For sure. Well, guys, the two last questions. I think that I'm hearing. Yeah, I'm hearing myself talking. Can you hear me well, guys?
I'm hearing.
Yes.
I'm hearing an echo.
An echo. Yeah, that's right. Which is strange because that's the only screen that I have connected at the moment. So I will try to not talk too much. So just to say, in our comment section on YouTube, Bruno Nunes says, I'm Ollie, I Scott, and I Marcos, nice hangout. And last question from Patrick that says, how important do you think to respond to fans when applicable, and how are you set up to ensure success? How valuable responding to fans is to your content monetization efforts? Have you understand the questions?
Yeah. So for us, we always respond to fans, and I think we're not necessarily in the transactional part of what we're trying to do. But we just think it's an important part of the strategy. Regardless if there's an end result of the funnel, or it's just a part of having a positive engagement. It's something that's a big part of what we're trying to do. So regardless of what the read is doing.
For sure. I think it's important to respond to fans. And I think as a community manager, when you're on the social media side, know what you know and know when to ask for help. If it's a sales question, if it's a technical question, whatever it is, respond to the fan, let them know, you hear their question and you're going to find out more information. Don't just throw out people, just a flip answer. Definitely always invest in when you're responding to fans that you're going to talk to the right person on your end to be able to answer their question. We found in sports, you connect people and say, can I get your email or number, and can I have a ticket sales representative call you? Can I have your account manager call you? Whatever it is, that I think, obviously let them know that you're following the questions, you're applying to them, but really have a personal stake in it and a lot of pride in on your end, not just throwing out a flip answer, but really investing in finding the right answer for them. Because if you're bad on that end of customer service, it's, disrespectful to everyone else who works in your company, that you're not using all your resources, that you're just throwing out flip answers on social media.
Yeah, sure. Well, guys, thank you so much for sharing such amazing, cool insights. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. Thank you so much for everyone that is watching. Do you have some final thoughts that you would like to share with us?
Thank you so much for having us.
Not both at the same time.
Had a great time.
Some final thoughts?
Yeah. Sorry, I was just reconnecting for a second. I think the thing that Molly and I always try to do it. I know it sounds trite. Like if you're able to just, if you're not able to have fun doing sports social media for a brand, then you definitely shouldn't be doing it. Honestly, like this is such a ridiculous job that didn't even exist 5-10 years ago. If as much as we're talking technical and we're talking all these different things, just have fun doing it, and remember that it's you're just trying to have some fun and build a positive reputation for a team.
Absolutely. Social media is a social point of being social. So, you're getting your team out there, you're connecting with brands, you're connecting with fans. Have a lot of fun with all of it and know that that's what everyone is in that space for. So don't be scared of trying new things, working with brands, working with your team.
Yeah.
Like, it's, it's not a space to hold back in. Like, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys, again, thank you so much for sharing some cool, some sharp insights, and thanks for everyone that has watched this hangout. We'll have more hangouts pretty soon. So thank you, and see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.